How's it going, guys? It's Adam here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the iPhone 5S in 2024. How does this hold up over 11 years later? Before we go any farther, guys, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It would really mean a lot to me. We've been going crazy with the amount of subscribers and the amount of views, but I have checked, over 98% of you guys are not subscribed who are watching. So if you are a new viewer to this channel, then make sure to subscribe. And if you're a returning viewer who has not subscribed, then please do as well. And yeah, let's just get with this video. So the iPhone 5S was released back in September of 2013. And at the time, the iPhone 5 came out and people were feeling pretty good about it. They really liked the design because it was a little bit of a bigger screen. However, what was new about the iPhone 5S at the time? Well, the biggest thing is definitely Touch ID. This is something that was definitely needed and a lot of Android phones had at the time, such as the Samsung Galaxy S5, which also had Touch ID. However, this actually works really, really well. You can unlock stuff really fast, and overall, it's a really fast system that has stayed basically in the Apple lineup because the newest iPhone SE has actually used Touch ID. So as a result, this is a very successful implementation by Apple. Okay, so I told you kind of what's new about this phone, but let's also talk about this design. So, like I said, this design is basically the exact same as the iPhone 5, however, with a couple of new colors. This is the space gray one, and overall, I really just like this design. I love how there's those little plus and minus buttons on the volume rocker, and also the mute switch is still here, and of course, we have Lightning, which has been on iPhones until the latest. And we also have the 3.5mm headphone jack. The top, we just have the power button. And yeah, we have the antenna bands on the sides, as you can see right here. And we have the SIM ejector. And on the back, we have the camera, which is an 8-megapixel camera. We have the LED flash. And we also have the Apple logo, as well as it's saying iPhone right here. So, let's actually first talk about this camera. We have an 8-megapixel camera on the back, and we have a 1.2 megapixel camera on the front. It can record up to 1080p at 30 FPS, and 720p on this front-facing camera. So, I actually had to cut the video because even though the phone was charged to about 45%, it actually completely died. And so I am going to talk about the battery, but let's first talk about these cameras. So this is a front-facing camera right here, and I talked about the back camera. And so this one can record up to 720p, and the back can record up to 1080p. These cameras are basically the same as the iPhone 6, and what I'll say about these cameras is that, yes, for the time they were very good, but nowadays they are very mediocre. So any photos that you're going to be taking will usually be very low in detail, okay in colors, and just overall pretty high in the amount of noise. So yeah, overall, not too impressive on the camera side. What I will say is that the video does look usually pretty good, much better than any Android phones did back in the day. iPhones have always been really good with video recording. So let's talk about one major issue that I just mentioned, and that is the battery. The battery on this is extremely mediocre, but especially mediocre on this phone. Now, I did get this phone from the e-waste, so it kind of does make sense why this would have such a bad battery, because probably was used a decent amount before this was given to the e-waste. However, even then, in my experience, my first phone actually was the iPhone 5S, and in my experience, when I did have that phone, it was really mediocre. The maximum screen on time I would get, basically this was brand new, would be about 2 to 3 hours maybe. And on this, this really only gets to like maybe an hour. It's really not great at all. Obviously, charging actually isn't too bad because of how small the battery is. But what I would say is that you're not going to get too much out, even if you charge it all the way up to 100%. Lastly, let's actually talk about one pretty good thing. And for 2013 standards, this is actually pretty impressive. The performance is actually pretty good. Now, granted, you can't play any top tier games. You definitely can't play PUBG, COD Mobile, anything like that. But what I will say is that the software performance is surprisingly really good. So in here we got 1 GB of RAM with the Apple A7 chip, but honestly it doesn't feel like it. Opening certain apps, like the weather app, doesn't take too long. Obviously it takes a little bit, but honestly it's really not too bad. As long as you have recent purchases on, like your previous purchases, apps like Instagram, Netflix, YouTube, everything like that will totally work. And honestly, this does still sometimes occasionally get security updates, which is the most impressive thing about this iPhone 5S in my opinion. However, for the price of $20 to $30, is it worth it? No, it isn't. It's on really still old software on OS 12.5, and honestly, in the next few years, you probably won't get any updates, and the software support will be less and less and less and less until none of the apps will work, and unfortunately, this is what is going to happen to this iPhone 5S that I have in my hand right here. And so even though I do believe that the design is timeless and that overall there are a lot of really good things about this phone, I would not recommend it for really anyone in 2024. Anyways, guys, that's about it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. We are doing awesome with the amount of subscribers, and yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.